Okay, stay relaxed, stay natural, and go for it.
Good morning. It's Wednesday.
Oh my gosh, it's Wednesday. And welcome to the very first episode of the Run Galloway Girls podcast. We are the Run Galloway Girls. I am Liz.
I'm Naomi.
And we are going to talk really fast at you about all the fun things that we like to talk about. We have wanted to start a podcast for like 4
or 5 years.
Yeah.
It's been bouncing around and we just haven't sat down and did it. So this is the first one. We'll see how this goes.
I know. It's really exciting, though. I really can't wait. Obviously, this is going to be kind of freeform. We have zero notes in front of us, but we want this podcast to be about running and friendship and, you know, specifically to elevate Galloway's Run, Walk, Run method. So that's going to be so fun.
Yeah, so that's what we do. We're Run, Walk, Runners. We are Galloway devotees. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that, but all things training, running, and probably a lot of life stuff that's not related to running.
Yeah, but everything is related to running when running is what you do as your recreation. Like, that's the other thing. We're not professional runners. We're not professional coaches in the sense, I mean, we're professional in the sense of the information that we know, but not in the sense that it's our jobs.
Nope. We don't make money off of it. It's our hobby.
Yeah, totally.
Our passion.
Which makes it super fun. And so we'll get started with a little introduction from Naomi.
So I'm Naomi. I'm a mom of a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old. I'm a full-time CPA. I'm a partner at my firm. So I'm super duper busy. I squeeze in running when I can, and then strength even less so.
And you kind of rock at squeezing in running. Like, okay, she's being a little like, I squeeze in running when I can. This woman had a baby and made partner during a pandemic, did a fall marathon when we were all still virtual for everything. Not the same year as her baby, but like her baby was like a year and a half old. 2021. Yeah, and then she did doubles for a fall marathon this year, all while juggling everything. So it's pretty amazing.
Thank you. It's I kind of see it as like the more I take on, the more I feel like I can take on, which most people don't get that. But I think I'm just like
I get that.
Yeah, type A driven, and so it just seems like I do more and more. And
I feel like that's my ADHD. The more I take on, the more I want to take on. So I'm Liz. I have ADHD. And it was funny because I think part of my diagnosis with that was your daughter's diagnosis.
Yes.
They happened kind of in parallel. And so, yeah. But I am the executive director of a nonprofit foundation that is an early childhood center. And I never thought that's what I'd be doing. So I'm very busy with that. And I run for fun. But I also am very, very driven. But this is actually a great first thing to talk about. We have both kind of redefined what a running goal is.
Yes.
We were both very into setting a time goal and setting a goal race and setting these goals that were tangible, at the top of a ladder, and we'd work on the rungs to get up to that point, only to realize that point is just another rung on the ladder of running.
Yeah.
There's no point to those things.
Yeah. So we used to be super time driven. We were both trying to Boston qualify.
Yeah.
It became, for me, it was a point of where it was overwhelming and it gave me a lot of anxiety. And so while I still have that as a goal, it's not the focus of my running anymore. It's process driven now.
And it stole a lot of joy from running because I did Boston qualify. But while we were in the process of doing all of that, Naomi had amazing PRs in every other distance. You had amazing PRs in every other distance. Whereas I was driven. It was I will do this
tunnel
marathon.
vision.
I refused to race 5Ks and I didn't race half marathons. I was no, it is the marathon. Or I would run them as a training run, but I'd hold myself back. And so it's just, I mean, we've also learned not to race 8 million times, which is just, so crazy. We used to race all the time. I think we probably are going to have to throw more races in than what we've done, but...
And I think part of that's just the pandemic. We didn't race at all, and so now pulling them back in feels like a bigger deal than it used to because we would just put races on our calendar all the time.
Yeah, and if you want, like, more kind of information on, like, redefining a goal and redefining, like, kind of your drive, I would definitely check out Steve Magnus's Instagram. They're mostly tweets that he's published there, but they're really, really great, and it's a perfect segue to kind of looping Galloway in with this amazing quote from Steve Magnus on his Instagram. It says, "I tell anyone who says, I hate running, jogging, that they're going too fast. Be able to have a full conversation. If that requires walking, then that's where you're at. When people recommend zone 2 training for the general population, most of it should, it should mean go on a walk. Another easy way to think about it is a 14-minute 5K runner that's 4 minutes and 31 seconds per mile. Holy moly. Runs 6:30 to 7 minutes miles on easy days. For the average person who runs a 5K, the data shows that that's in the 9 to 10 minute mark. What's the easy pace for the average person? Walking. Walking is the easy pace. So Joe Jogger hates running because the act of running is for, like that 14-minute 5K runner. It would be like if that person went out at a 5-minute pace. It's only 30 seconds. So I really want to do the math for this because Jeff always tells us to, like, go slower. And we've seen such success doing that.
Yeah, and Jeff's big thing that he always says is, if you are huffing and puffing, if you hear yourself breathing on an easy run, obviously this would be a little bit different when you're doing your speed work, but then you are going too fast. You need to add, your walk breaks need to be more frequent, and that may mean you are walking, you're running 20 seconds or 15 seconds instead of a minute or 2 minutes
or 90 seconds. Oh my gosh. So so Naomi came from straight running, actually, and we have a really fun story, and we'll share it on another podcast episode about how she became, she came over to the dark side, to the Galloway Method, to the dark side. But I have always used the Galloway Method, and, people would come up to me and they would see my training paces on, like, I would share my, like, Nike Plus picture. Hold on one second. We're back. Penny, that's my dog. We tried to keep her out of what we're doing, and she wedged her way under the desk, so it was crazy. So what I was talking about was people would look at my little picture of my runs with my pace, and then when I broke 4 hours in the marathon, I had messages all over the place, and they're like, how did you break 4 hours when all of your training runs are like 11:30, 11:40 per mile pace? And I was like, oh, run walk.
Yeah, it's a big secret, or it's the secret, because when you look at it, you don't see that, our cadence is actually higher than if we were running straight. And so we're actually, my first foray into run walk, when Liz converted me on that day in Richmond that we'll talk about later, it was, to me, it felt like we were doing, essentially quarter-mile sprints for a full marathon, because we had pretty good run speed in there with these 2 and 30s. And so it was definitely a big jump for me, but it was super effective and
doable.
And
like,
doable.
That's the other thing is, sure, it feels like, like a quarter-mile sprint, but then it's also an eighth of a mile walk recovery.
Yes.
So it's, I do like to kind of explain to, like, runners or other athletes, because so I do have a swim coaching background, that it is very much like running a marathon the way a track runner would train, which that makes sense because Jeff Galloway was a track runner. He was
short distance.
He went to the Olympics in the 10K, although there's a great story about how he probably should have gone in the marathon. And I don't know if this story is true, so we're gonna have to ask Jeff. But the story is that he accidentally won a spot on the Olympic team in the 10K. And it was supposed to go to his friend. And so he helped his friend in the marathon.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's who Jeff Galloway is.
Exactly.
Even if that story is not exactly true, that is his personality. Yeah. And I would not doubt that for a second.
I'm pretty sure that is 100% true. Yeah. I just listened to another interview with him, and he was talking about that. Getting a friend in, but very nonchalant, because that's who he is.
Oh my gosh, he's like the most amazing man in the whole world, and we will definitely try. He's gonna come on this podcast. Like, he loves us. Yeah. He's gonna have no problem with that. So, one of the things about Run Walk that's so amazing is that it allows you to also train with anybody even if their race paces are so much slower, because there's no detriment to going too slow. We are super fans of the Swap podcast with Megan and David Roche, and they talk about how, they've actually asked the question, how slow is too slow? And nobody's figured it out yet. Like, there really is no too slow. And when Megan was going through her heart issues last year, David was like, I can't wait to find out if this super slow training actually has this amazing effect for you long term. Yeah,
and so far coming back, it has. And that ties back to what Steve Magnus is saying, that basically, walking is a very valid option.
Yeah.
There is no too slow. And if your heart rate is already going up into zone 2 on a 5-zone model, then you should be slowing down to where maybe it's walking, or maybe it's just more walking in terms of run walk. You can still run, but it's going to be 10 seconds at a time.
Yeah, and I would say that we have done a little bit of that. Like, we end most of our runs, we end them with at least a half-mile walk, which I also attribute that as part of, like, our injury prevention. Like, Naomi alluded to it before, squeezing in strength when we can. Largely, we have not cross-trained for all the years we've trained together. We walk in addition to our running, and that's it. Like,
and by strength, I literally mean rehab from, niggles and we do not do strength. We do not get in the gym. Not that we wouldn't like to, but
oh my gosh, if we had time, and money, I could see us both, like, hiring a personal trainer and, like, having a strength and conditioning coach, like, work us out. But, like, and that sounds so, like, not being able to do it or not having it, it sounds like so amazing. Like, oh, that would be so great. But then I think if we did it, we'd be like, oh, we hate you. We'd be like, can we just go run, please?
We just love running. I think that's the fault of a lot of runners. So we
although I would say in the summer, we're super good at cross training, mostly because I love swimming and I've bought you all the swimming toys. So
get in the pool.
I'm like dragging Naomi down the lane.
It's fun. It's super fun. I'm slow, but I love getting in the pool.
And then your husband Scott bought you that super awesome bike.
Yes. And he got me a Trek. Damane.
And then my boyfriend is super into mountain biking, and so I have a pretty sweet mountain bike, and so I've been doing that. I'm trying to convince Naomi to try mountain biking. It's like going on a roller coaster. It's so much fun.
And scary.
It is a little scary, but it's more fun than it is scary, especially there are like these like 4 little tips that I wish I had learned them on my very first ride that make it so much easier. Look where you're going. Like, don't look at, if you're going around a curve, don't look at the curve, look at the path around it. And that's like kind of a metaphor for life. Yeah. Don't look at what you're doing in the moment, kind of look ahead, but also don't like try to see too far ahead because you want to like enjoy what you're experiencing.
And with that sort of like your head, your body follows your head. So, but what's interesting there is, if you try to look too far ahead, then you're going to
wipe out.
But
so if you're like too zoomed in, you're bad, and if you're too zoomed out, you're bad. Yeah. You need to like just be kind of present.
It's a great metaphor for life.
Yeah.
And career and everything else. Like, you want to kind of be on that path, but not be trying to jump ahead of where you are. You don't want to like wish your life away.
Yes.
Wishing for, in a year I'm going to be here. It's like, well, what about right now?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, think about all of those race times. And I'm not just going to pick on you. I'm going to think about when we ran the George Washington Parkway 10-miler. And our goal for that season was to break, it was very, very cool. Our goal for that season was to break an hour and 20 in the 10-miler. And in March, we ran a 10-miler as a training run, and we ran a 119.
A very hilly 10-miler.
Yeah.
Completely as a training run. There was no...
Laughing and talking the entire way. And to put this into perspective, our PRs at the time were 122, 123. So, like, this was a huge jump. And we'd just come off of fall marathons together in, like, the 350, 345 range. And so our fitness obviously was there, but it was incredible just that it happened. Well, then a month later, we go and we run the George Washington 10-miler. And I ran a huge PR that day. I think I ran 117. Mm-hmm. But Naomi ran 115.
114.
114. Even faster. And I have still to this day never run a 114.
And I don't think I ever will touch it again.
Oh, whatever. but I let the fact that I didn't have as big of a drop, like, kind of, like, just
dampen the happiness.
It didn't, right. It dampened my joy. I was so happy for her. I was happy for myself, but I was still like, I had the I wish rather than the, like, I did.
Look what I did.
What I did. Or, like, that swagger of, like, I was awesome today. Yeah. Like, this is a huge accomplishment. And, like, I had, like, feet and, like, weird niggles because I had that stupid new pair of shoes on. I love my Saucony Kinvaras so much, but, and I love them and I buy them, but they make, like, these, like, special ones, and the special, like, this pair was like a Dunkin' Donuts pair. And every time they make a special pair, they sometimes don't fit quite right. And so, like, then I get these foot niggles. Like, I have a really cute blue and yellow Boston pair, and I, like, don't wear them as often because they're not as good as just the normal colors. Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it's mental. It very well
But it might be they're using a different, I don't know, just because the material is different.
But it's very similar to, like, your day at Mountains to Beach.
Yeah, so at Mountains to Beach, which we had...
In 2019.
2019, we ran it. Yeah, we're running again this year. So we ran it in, we trained, obviously, together the entire winter, spring. We were very on par. But
you also had tax season, which I didn't have. Right. So you had a lot of life stress.
60-hour weeks. No 60-mile weeks, but 40 to 50-mile weeks with 60-hour work weeks. And, so then we were, training together and planning to race together. We did start the race together. We had our friend Ken pacing us, and we raced... we were racing for that BQ that day. That was the goal. That was the only goal. And Liz crushed it, but by 2 seconds.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
But so so she succeeded, and about halfway through, like, I couldn't keep up with the two of them, so I decided to chill back. And at the halfway point, I just chilled back to, like, literally what I knew I could coast it in with, super casual, like a 9-minute pace, like just a sub-2 back half. And during the race, I totally enjoyed myself. I didn't beat myself during the race. I did really, it really stung when I finished and realizing two things. One, that I was like 12 or 13 minutes off of my goal of sub 335. I ran a 347. So that was, kind of painful how much off. It wasn't like a few minutes. But the other thing that was painful was that I was 59 seconds off of a PR. And so I just worked a little harder in that back half, I still could have enjoyed it. I still could have PR'd, and it didn't have to be a big PR. It didn't have to be a 12-minute PR with a BQ. It could have still been a PR.
But the other thing is, when you adjust that race against your PR race for temperature, it was a PR. And that was the other piece that's like kind of difficult. Like, sure, for course, it's a much faster course, but that's one of the things, like, Naomi and I are super, like, we're completely different runners. I cannot handle cold wind. Naomi is fine with cold wind. Sure, nobody likes wind. Wind is the bane of all of our existences. But like, give her a cold wind day over a 70-degree day anytime. Whereas like 85 sunny, go for it. Like once my heart rate is up in the like ridiculous red zone on my watch, my body is just like, oh, we're going to suffer here today. I got this.
Right.
And it's crazy. Like literally like, you know, sometimes and we talk about this on runs. I'm like, should I adjust my Garmin heart rates because my heart rate zones are so high? But then I look and I've spent during a marathon or during something, I've spent 4 hours in a red zone, and you're not supposed to be able to spend that much time there and performing well.
Right.
And so I'm like, yeah, there's like, this has got to be fine.
Yeah, no, and I can't take heat and humidity. And
as soon as you're in that high zone, like 20 minutes in that high zone, you start to get like chest pain.
Well, in
heat.
Yeah. So I've had, I'll have days where I'm in the red zone for the full, like this fall, I did Army 10. I was in the red zone for the entire time. I ran around what did I run? A 120. I don't know what
it was like right around 120 something.
122 or something.
Yeah.
Or, it was a 120 flat, like with 120 in 16 seconds or something. But,
because you were badass, amazing fitness.
But I can be in my red zone for like that hour 20 or hour 30, even up to like pushing an hour 40 and a half. But I can't hold that line for 3 hours,
if there's
4 hours.
If there's sun or heat, like
basically I end up with like the humidity pukes. So.
Yeah, right. And heat exhaustion. And like, I remember like the first time experiencing that with you during the Devil Dog double.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like, cause I saw just how like it's almost like you get heat exhaustion really easily. And like it happened again in Reston Marathon when that surprise hot day in April.
Yeah.
So ridiculous. So we're just very different runners, but it's okay. You know, everybody has their different strengths. And it's funny because Naomi will often say, well, I'm a fast twitch runner, or I'm fast twitch muscle, which I also have, but I think we just have, I think our bodies handle stress differently.
Yeah.
Like my body tends to be like, no, I just want to kind of rest on my laurels. Please don't push too hard. Like I have joked with Jeff. I'm like, I would like to get into the fitness to where my 80% effort is this goal time. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, so if my goal time is a 3:35 in the marathon, I think I need to get in 3:20 shape. He's like, what? I was like, because I don't want to work that hard on race day. And like, it's funny because that's literally what I've done when I BQ'd is I've gotten like into really great shape to where like, oh, if I chill out today, I'm still going to hit my goal. Cool.
Yeah. And I think it's everybody's like, everybody would love to not have to work too hard, and that is hard to understand. That like, okay, on a race day, you actually might be working a lot harder than you ever have.
Yeah, and it's fine too. But also, like, I mean, it's also okay to just dial back your goals, right?
Right.
It's also okay to be like, I would rather enjoy this than suffer.
Exactly.
Like one of my favorite things, and I really hope that it's true, is that I got certainly with my previous fitness, and I've taken pretty much 2 years off of running, like consistently, one for burnout, and then the second year for infertility, trying to get pregnant. And I took a year off. I ran the Boston Marathon in 2022.
No training.
I need to stop saying that I took a year off when I did actually run that race that year. But
just stepped back, basically.
Right. But I was in shape. Like there was a time when like I lined up at the start of a marathon and I had this like blind confidence that I would be able to be 4 hours, that I would be under 4 hours, which I remember that feeling in the half marathon too, when like I was very lucky, fit, natural ability. First half marathon, went out there, ran a 1:57. Like, so that's kind of where I'm coming from. Fitness, wise. It's now, to be fair, prior to that, I worked really hard to get my 5K from around a 26:30 down to under 25 minutes.
Which is
which is fast.
So it lines up, the fact that you could then, ramp that up to a half.
And I did my I did my second 10 miler. I did my first 10 miler in my name in 1:28. So again, that 1:28 lines up with the 1:57. So that's kind of like where I was. And then from there, every time I did a half, it came down incrementally. And then we looked at like all of our races. Like, I pretty much on any day could, and probably even today could, at this fitness, would run a 1:55-ish in half, right? Because that's just kind of my natural ability.
Yes. Yeah. And we got to where that was a very easy, it still takes work to get back there, I feel like.
Yeah. We'll see.
When you take off time, but.
Yeah, we'll see. Although we did this kick-ass run the other day. We love short intervals for easy runs. We did a 30-30 run where we were just crushing it. What was it like? Yeah. Felt easy, and like we had like 9:40, just
9:40, 9:30. I think the fastest one was like a 9:23, and these were just coming. We would just literally went out for easy, thinking, okay, we'll just see what happens, and then we just, since we kept those 30-30s on, we let our leg speed take us. We let our just cadence keep up, and we didn't actually push those miles, but they were fast. So
we're pretty far into the podcast, but let's answer one of like the questions that we get all the time, which is, what run speed do you run at when you do your intervals? And why this question is so difficult to answer. So what do you tell people when they say, well, what's your run speed?
Yeah, so it really depends, because if I go back and look at my run speed, I'll have easy days where if I'm by myself and doing 30-30s, or even when we're together, 15-30s, we may only be running in like the low 9s. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times our run speed, like on that day with those fast 30-30s, our run speed is probably around 7:20.
Right.
So our run speed can vary. So it's...
Absolutely. So my answer to that question is, it doesn't matter what your run speed is. It matters what your heart rate is and your average per distance. So that's what I tell people when they say, well, what's your run speed? How do you get there? I say, well, it depends on your own fitness, the intent of the workout, right? So that's your heart rate, and your average. And so if your intent is to hit a certain pace, you've got to run and walk together average to hit that pace, right? So that's like, so it's kind of like a weird question to be like, oh, well, what pace do you run? When it's 30-30s too, you just run.
Yeah.
So if your goal is to say do a threshold workout, you're going to have to run a little faster. And maybe you don't use 30-30s for all of it. Maybe you, a lot of people really like longer intervals. And Jeff has an amazing interval calculator thing on his website but we've found, I found, and I dragged Naomi along on this, that shorter intervals are better for me.
Yeah.
Even on race day, you just have to like get that turnover going and just like enjoy those walks. And then one of the things I've learned from Track Club Babe is you can keep your cadence up and go really slow too. I love her Instagram. Definitely check it out. She's got lots of great things. I would love to talk to her and see if she would try run walk in the Galloway way.
Yeah, with actual intervals.
Yeah.
I think she probably does some run walk coming back, but...
and that's the thing. It's so great for coming back from pregnancy or injury illness. But the other thing, you never have to get rid of your walk breaks.
Yeah. You can continue to get faster with them. It doesn't have to be I'm trying to remove my walk breaks or run for longer amounts of time, because I've found, coming from the other side, is that it got faster after I started using walk breaks, so I'm never going back, basically.
Right. Well, and I am still trying to convince you that a walk break in 5K can make you faster. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Maybe we'll do, like, once fitness is up, maybe we'll do a 5K with, like, quarter-mile sprints.
Yeah.
We'll do quarter-mile sprints with recovery. Like, what is that? That would be really, really rough. Could you imagine? Like, oh my gosh, like literally quarter mile sprints in like, we could do them in like 1:20.
Yeah. An official one. We did one, I did one. It was 2020. It was December, and we went to the track.
Out on the track, and I timed you.
You timed me. I did quarter mile. I did a 5K with walk breaks.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was my PR, even faster than some of the ones I did this year on in real courses though. But
yeah, I mean, I have such a love-hate relationship with the track. It's a lot.
And with 5Ks.
And with 5Ks.
They're a lot.
Yeah. Although I did find that I do really like my new trick with 5Ks, which is I set my watch on half-mile intervals, and I use 80-20 as my run-walk interval. And so it beeps every half mile, and so it gives me 6 little segments to worry about, 7, instead of thinking only 3, because my mantra in the marathon and why I love the marathon so much is, oh, there's still time. Oh, there's still time. And like, to that point in my PR marathons, all of them, I have a within the first 3 miles, like a 9:30 mile because I had to pee. And I don't stop my watch when I have to pee during a race because the clock doesn't stop for me. And there have not been a detriment. Oh, I really hope the mic didn't pick up my stomach growling.
We'll edit it out.
No, we won't. I don't know how to do that. We're going to keep all the little pauses and all the little weirdo things in. So, yeah, this is going to be so fun. And we can't wait for people to send us questions.
Yes.
What's another question that you get a lot?
Let's see. So, yeah, like what speed you're on. I think, I'm trying to think if I have any others that people ask me. Not really.
Not really.
It's usually about, they're looking at our cadence and our speed, and they're not, like, we do use faster than prescribed than, like, the typical on Jeff's
shorter than prescribed.
Shorter than prescribed intervals.
I would say that we are on the slower end of what all of his training metrics would say, though, because we tend to really think that there's nothing too easy. And I think that is probably the secret to our running success, is that we have no qualms running a 14-minute mile if that's what the day gives us. And I mean, there are some times where our legs are saying, let's go faster. And I will literally say, no, we need to slow down, because I'm coming back very, very much aware that I'm walking like this line between like my muscle memory fitness, my current cardiovascular fitness, and possibly pushing into overtraining.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to have a baby. So like, I'm very protective of my endocrine system and very protective of like not getting into any bit of overtraining. Like, I drink like 3 protein shakes a day in order to like, make sure that my body is like, no, you got this. Like,
as well as injury, like you definitely want to avoid that.
Yes.
That would be a bummer.
And that's why
season.
I love my Theragun. So I'm going to mention Theragun, and maybe somebody from Theragun will reach out and sponsor us. I'm just kidding. And then we love our athletic greens.
Yes.
And so, that's another thing. We could do a whole podcast on nutrition.
Products we love, nutrition we love. Yeah, we definitely will.
Yeah. So I would say that most of the time when people are asking advice, the advice that I want to give, and probably it's hard for people to hear, is slow down on your easy runs, get specific and fast on your workouts. And, it's hard though, because it's hard to push fast. And don't be afraid of really like pushing fast and really working hard on workouts, and don't be afraid of really taking it easy.
Yes.
Really having that polarized training in that 80-20, and stop running those miles stop going out for 30 minutes and trying to hit 3 miles, or even 30 minutes and trying to hit 2.5 miles. Like, just go out for 30 minutes. Like, don't worry about how far you go. We struggle with that sometimes too.
Yeah. So then we'll just end up going a little farther instead of keeping to time, because we will slow down.
Oh, yeah.
But not necessarily, we might not stick to the 1 hour. If we see that we're close to 6 miles, it might be an hour and 5 minutes.
Right. But I mean, that's also, we're in a very different training pace than, unfortunately, a lot of the people, well, fortunately, because I want everyone to be part of the running community. I want everyone to run. My biggest tip for health and wellness is get outside and walk 30 minutes a day. Try to get 10,000 steps and spend 20 minutes in fresh air. Like, if anybody's like, oh, how do I get started? Or, I feel like food's standing in my way. I'm like, no, you have to eat. Like, stop focusing on food. Do you spend 20 minutes a day outside? And they're like, no. Everybody says no. Nobody spends 20 minutes a day outside unless they're a preschool teacher at my school, and I force them to spend 2 hours outside. I'm just kidding. But, stop thinking about, I have to do the entire alphabet. You don't. You just have to start with A.
Yeah. Starting with a walk is, I know for a lot of people, it's like, well, I want to become a runner. Okay, well, start by walking, and then you can, kind of see how it goes from there.
Yeah. So that's like kind of my thought on that is like, just walk and don't worry about it. And 30 minutes is plenty. So we get a lot of people who are sort of towards the beginning of their journey. A lot of people in the Galloway who use Galloway, or there's a misconception that it's for older runners. There's a misconception that it's for when you're kind of a has-been runner, and you're trying to keep going into your 60s and 70s and 80s. There's a misconception that it's for injured
coming
runners
back from
injuries. There's a misconception that it's for if you're unfit and heavier and just starting out. But we're here to kind of break that and really show that this can be for everyone. And just because you use walk breaks in your easy runs doesn't mean that you have to walk during races, but it also doesn't mean that you can't. No. It's okay to walk.
And with the marathon, I think you'll find that pretty much everyone at some point is walking, but what they're doing is they have, they're hitting a wall and they're having to walk towards the end. And what you want to see, if you start with walk breaks from the beginning with timed walk breaks, you'll see that instead you're starting your walk breaks, you're not hitting that wall, you're going to be passing all those people at the end. And if you want to run in your final mile, that's fine too.
And one of the coolest things about doing run walk is you can have done 0 run walk during training and you can show up on race day.
Yes.
And as long as you're using an interval that's appropriate for your fitness, probably 4 and 1 if you're a 5-hour marathoner, or 4 and 30. If you're a 5-hour marathoner, you will still hit a wall with 4 and 1. I mean, I don't know many 5-hour marathoners that don't hit a little bit of a wall, just because in general, it's not their 30th marathon or 15th marathon. If they're in that time range, it's, marathon number 1 or 2 or 3, and so that wall exists how with less experience, right? So the marathon does get easier the more you do them, believe it or not. But if you are using kind of an appropriate interval anywhere from, I'm not even going to throw out intervals based on time, you're going to find that even if you did 0 training with Run Walk, you're going to feel great during the marathon, and you're going to feel great at the end. You really will.
And the next day, which is what's amazing.
Well, I don't know. The next day...
Maybe the next day, your first or second or third marathon.
Yeah, for sure. And Erin, who's one of my best friends from high school, and she's coming to do Mountains to Beach with us, she ran her second course marathon. It was her third because her first was a virtual, and she had been using 2 and 30 for all of her training, and I had her switch to 30/30s. She was able to negative split the Marine Corps marathon, run an amazing time that was 20 minutes faster than her previous marathon, and she ran in her last couple of miles, and she ran a 5:12, I think, something like 5:12, 5:13. Her last couple of miles were 10:30s, which is a 10:30 is a 4:30 pace.
Yeah.
And she's doing that at the end of Marine Corps. Right, 4:40, because 10:30 is, 4:30 is 10:23. 10:23, I think. 10:22. That's really bad.
But
I know that.
At the end of
Marine Corps, and Marine Corps is like it's like concrete, and the concrete like beats your legs up, and it's 14th Street Bridge. Like, I saw her at the end of 14th Street Bridge turning into Crystal City, so we're like mile 23, and she blasted past me. She didn't even stop to give me a hug. She was like on a mission. I was like that's where I'm like, no matter if I'm racing myself or pacing someone, that's where I'm like looking for shots of Fireball and soda.
Yeah, that's a tough section. And so she clearly, having switched those shorter intervals, she saved so much for the end.
She banked speed. That's our favorite like little thing. You can't bank time, but you can bank speed for later.
Yes.
So, well, I think that this is a great place to stop for our very first episode, and we will come back to you next week with another episode. And send us in questions that you want us to answer.
Yeah, you can hit us up on Instagram. We're the Run Galloway Girls. We also have a Gmail. It's GallowayGirlsRun@gmail.com.
And we have a website, so you can go to our website and contact us from there too.
RunGallowayGirls.com.
RunGallowayGirls.com/podcast, and you can please subscribe. What is it? Subscribe to the podcast and rate us. Please give us all the stars. I don't know how many stars there are in the ratings. Give us all the stars, please. This is just a passion project for us. It's for fun. We're going to keep doing it whether people listen or not. So just stroke our egos a little.
We just hope that we can, just share some of like what we're sharing out on the run together and with our running group. And so this is a way to just share it with everybody out there.
And this is actually helping our training, because we would love to just get together and run an extra day a week, but we are super about our rest day brags. So this is part of our rest day brags.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys will tune in next week, and we will see you guys later.
Bye. Bye.